carbonated water, high fructose corn syrup, caramel color, phosphoric acid, and forbic acid, gum arabic, bromated vegetable oil, thiamine hydroxycholine, EDTA vegetable oil, and Blue One. Blue One. Have any of you guys ever wanted a big spoonful of Blue One? Or gone with your family to go pick Blue One? I haven't either, but the fact is that every day we're ingesting tons of chemicals like Blue One and a lot of the other chemicals that I just mentioned, and we're completely unaware of it. And I'm not just talking about chemicals that we can read off the Pepsi bottle or generic soda bottle. I'm talking about chemicals that come on top of our foods in the form of pesticides and herbicides, and chemicals that are used to genetically modify our foods, to make GMOs, genetically modified organisms. For example, the tomato in the supermarket might have genes in it that, from a fish or from a bacteria that enable it to stay fresher longer or to resist insects. You may be asking yourself, so what? So there are chemicals in my food, I don't feel that bad. Are they actually bad for me? Well, there's so much rhetoric and all this crazy talk about whether GMOs and chemicals are bad for us, it's really hard to find out the truth. I'm not here to argue that all GMOs are bad and that this is what GMOs actually are like. But I am here to argue that we might not be so conscious of what we're eating, and that by becoming more conscious of what we're eating, we can be doing our bodies, our environment, and our economy a great deal of good. So in order to establish whether one should cut back on their intakes of GMOs or chemicals, it has to be established what they actually are. A genetically modified organism is a food that has had a gene extracted from another organism and implanted into it for various benefits that I mentioned earlier. According to the USDA, in 2005, 87% of our soybeans in America, 52% of our corn, and 79% of our cotton was made from genetically modified seeds. So the fact is, these genetically modified organisms are everywhere. And while it's true that GMOs and chemicals can increase crop yield and can enable plants to grow in places they might not normally have been able to grow, there might be some negative side effects that we haven't been hearing about. For example, I'll just mention a loophole in the law in regards to genetically modified organisms. Cottonseed oil, which are produced using GMOs oftentimes, 79% of cotton is GMO. They don't technically classify as a food. And cottonseed oil, that's in a lot of the foods we eat today, you can find it on pretty much any processed food that you eat, it doesn't count as a food legally. So we're eating a food that doesn't count as a food, which means that farmers can spray it with whatever kind of chemicals they want, and they don't have to tell us about it or actually research the kind of negative effects it might be having on our body. GMOs were also linked to many deaths in the late 80s in regards to an L-tryptophan supplement. And even though this is only one example, it's just one incident where GMOs have played a factor in a serious health risk. There's a huge movement in Europe right now to eliminate GMOs and to make sure that they're very clearly labeled, because many doctors believe they're related to the skyrocketing obesity and allergy rates in the United States and abroad. GMOs don't only have negative side effects for our bodies, they have negative side effects on the environment. For example, since GMOs, they make plants more resistant to pesticides and herbicides, farmers often spray their crops with as many pesticides and herbicides as they can. So when you go buy a tomato or a grape or a banana, that's coming to you not free of chemicals, it's coming with a ton of chemicals, even though those plants were modified in order to try and reduce the amount of chemicals that were used. Another example, I don't know if you guys have heard of the seed company called Monsanto, but it's a huge seed company, and it also produces herbicides and pesticides. And there was a company town in Alabama right next to the Monsanto factory, and Monsanto was leaking tons of chemicals into the environment and not telling the people. And the cancer rates in that town were incredibly high. They were found, cancer was happening in virtually every family. And when scientists went down and they said, oh, let's do a little experiment with the river water, and they put 10 fish in the water, and within 5 minutes, all of the fish had died. So these chemicals are leaching their way into our bodies and into our ecosystems, and we're totally unaware of it. Now you might think this is all hogwash, and that you're eating chemicals all the time, and you feel fine, and just because this has something bad in it doesn't mean that you're going to feel bad. But I encourage you, please, to research it yourself and really take a good look at what you're eating. Because whether you like it or not, chemicals and genetically modified organisms are actively making their way into your body. We can really take control over what we eat. You take control and decide not to smoke cigarettes, or not to take certain drugs, or not to go to certain dangerous situations. But every day we kind of mindlessly eat these things, and we really have no idea what kind of effects they have on our body. I'm not saying that they're all bad. Again, I want to reiterate that chemicals and GMOs, I don't think that they're evil and that they're going to give us all cancer in a year. I just think that there are many side effects that we don't really know about now that many people would want to be aware about if they had the option. And we do have the option. This is just one thing I want to remind you of. It's about 60 years ago. This was an ad that everyone would see in their magazines. And the doctor said it's okay. It must be healthy for you. Take a look at the T-zone. That's the only research you need to know, the taste and throat. So I question you to think, do you really just want to be using your taste and throat to be testing kind of chemicals that might be really bad for you and for your environment? And imagine just going to a local farmer's market and knowing exactly when you're eating an apple or eating a banana, you know exactly where it came from, you know exactly what's in it, and it's not having negative side effects on your local economy or on your body. Eating more natural food can also increase the amount of energy you have, and it can help improve your immune system and help you stay awake longer. Just one example, high fructose corn syrup, as we learned a little bit about in previous presentations. It's engineered to be sweeter, high fructose, and we don't have the ability in our digestive system to handle that high fructose. Our body isn't made to deal with that. So we have to spend a lot of excess energy and water and time trying to process a food that we're never going to be able to, which often leads to high weight loss or high weight gain. That's one of the reasons why it's so difficult to lose weight. It's so easy to gain weight when eating a lot of high fructose. Oftentimes also vegetables can be a lot less expensive than processed foods, but equally as convenient. For example, all natural peanut butter or apples, they can be conveniently stored in your dorm. You don't have to repair them, but you're actively eliminating chemicals. Just a little more information of what you can do. The State College has a farmers market, State College Farmers Market. This is the time and location. I'm going to email this to all you guys. And while it's indoors during the winter, so it can be a little harder to get to, next summer when you guys come back, and over this summer, if you're ever here, it's really, really convenient to get access to local foods that are actively helping the State College economy. Also, if you want to find out which foods have GMOs, just if you're curious about it and want to know what's really going into your body, you can go to truefoodnow.org, and that'll give you a little bit more information on what foods have GMOs in them. Also, the Daily Green can give you information about the kind of pesticides you might be eating, completely unknowingly. And if you think that GMOs really need to be regulated and you'd like to know exactly what's in your food and what GMOs are in your food, you can sign a petition at Democracy in Action. And it's really easy. All you have to do is fill in your name, and that'll actively take a step to make sure that you are aware when chemicals and genetically modified organisms are going into your body. We rely on our body for everything, and every 7 years we've made a new body. We're constantly regenerating. We can't sleep or study or run without our bodies and brains. And the food is a building block for that. We are what we eat, so find out what you are by finding out what you eat.